Right.
So
Thank you,
yeah.
Joy. I just started the recording. So Kat, you're in Florida. You're down by Fort Lauderdale area. Are people out on the beach already?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's spring break here. So it's kind of hard to hold the kids back when it comes to that activity. So they're all out on the beach. I've been on the beach in North Florida as I was making my way back from Texas and whatever. And they were more sparse than here. So we'll see. We'll see how this month goes. Hopefully people will behave.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, we're so glad that all you're here. Jan, thanks for saying hello from Harlingen. I have an aunt that's there in Alamo Palms. I'm sure you probably are familiar with that. And I have quilt friends that are actually down in South Texas as well. So it's nice to see you and nice to have you here today. Thank you very much. Karen is saying that when Skyping with the grandkids this week to read, she showed them the design wall with the Lizzy blocks. I think that's what you mean. Granddaughter wanted to know more about the lady block. The one with a Sunbonnet Sue. I assume that's what that is meant to be. Right. If you are joining us today, please do not use the chat feature. Please go over and use the Q&A feature. So I see Kathy Winks. Hello, I see you there, but I'm trying to keep one window consolidated. So please communicate using the Q&A feature. That would be great. Thank you. Yeah, you found it. You got it. Very good. All right. Thanks so much.
What a great last name.
Well, yeah, it is, isn't it? I think that's great. Kathy, I believe that you participated in the Lizzy Albright quilt as well. So thank you for doing that. And Karen, it's great to see that you've done that as well. So, all right, everyone, let's get into chatting. We have things that we want to share today, but I want you to ask questions. I want you to ask questions about those first 7 chapters. So if you thought of something, or if you're curious about something, then please absolutely put it in the Q&A, and we would love to discuss that with you. While you're doing that, and hello, Miss Jan, it's great to have you from Dolores, just on the other side of the mountains from me. Well, it's maybe 4 or 5 hours, but still, we'll call ourselves neighbors. I wanted to start, Kat, I want to start with talking about the mansion, the McHale family mansion. To give a little bit of more history behind that. I mentioned on Monday that there's a lot of backstory to develop this family that's not even in the book. And the way I have this situated is that Malcolm McHale was a general in the Civil War, but he was single. He was a widower. His wife they had married back in Frederick, Maryland. His wife had contracted scarlet fever. She died of scarlet fever after like 2 years of marriage, so they didn't have children. So he was a growing young man, not married, when he came into the Civil War. And after the war, he moved over to Kansas because of his association with a real person whose name is Levi Parson. And Levi Parson was the president of the Kansas, Texas, Missouri Railroad. If you've heard of the Katy Railroad or the Katy Trail, that is that railroad. And so Mr. Parsons would have been, well off and well-to-do because of that. And I have Malcolm McHale being a fictitious vice president of that company. And he meets Mr. Parsons' daughter, who is also fictitious, named Cordelia. They fall in love, they get married. And as a result of this, and not long after, we have the oil boom when their child, Lincoln McHale, gets involved in oil. They end up founding the town of Cordelia, Kansas, and they build the mansion. So I had to find a way to get them money in order to we named a town and we built a mansion. And that's kind of the backstory. I don't need to go too much more into that other than the fact that the only real person in that story is Levi Parsons. And of course, the train was real as well. And so was the oil boom that was in Kansas. So that was a lot of fun research back in the day. And then as we explore the mansion, we have all kinds of, we talk about mahogany walls. We talk about a Chippendale table that seats, 18 people. And that table is the kind of thing that I would go research historic Chippendale furniture because I didn't want to talk about it without learning and reading about it. And then Kat, you were also kind of in this, how opulent could we make this? And you were doing something on the internet one day. Explain that to everybody.
Yeah. So of course, the dining room, I wanted to know what's in the dining room. What silver are we using? What crystal are we using? What plates are we using? And it's Christmas time. And so it's always a big deal to, put out the full spread at Christmas time. And so I started researching the china and what kind of china would she have received as gifts and things like that back in the day. And I stumbled across these fantastic Dresden plates that had Currier and Ives plates. And I sent the picture. Yeah, I sent the picture to Ricky and I went, these are fun. And then all of a sudden I get a package in the mail. And I'm like, what's this? And I open it up and it's that plate. Ricky, in all of his craziness, went shopping.
I did go shopping, and so I thought everybody would like to talk, because when we're in the dining room and Nellie is setting the table, we talk about the Currier and Ives plates, and Granny's going to use them now every Christmas. I thought you might like to see them, so I'm going to hold them up for you. So I'm not going to hold them up for long for the sake of time, but I'm going to go through several of these. And then I'm going to show you the ones that are actually in the book. So there's 3 of these plates described in the book. Yeah, they're really wonderful. The scenes that are in them, I love them. So it took from 2017, 2018 to now to actually get all of these. These are made by Adams China. They are called the Winter Scenes. They have Currier and Ives paintings on them, and I love all of them. All right, I'm not going to show you absolutely every single one, but the 3 that are in the book, we have the clipper that's going through the ice. We have the clipper.
Yeah,
that's in the book. That's described in the book. We have, I think it was Alan that loved the train.
Alan likes the train
in the snow.
Yeah.
And they're trying to dig the snow, the train out of the snow.
Yeah.
And then of course we have Lizzie's plate, which she loves birds. So this is grouse, kind of down by a paint. And this one, they actually have a name. This one's called Snowed Up. Let's turn it this way. Snowed Up Ruffed Grouse in Winter. So that's the name of this one. That's Lizzie's plate. That's her favorite plate. And it's that's a good transition, Kat, into the fact that Lizzie likes birds. She went to feed the birds. She saw the goose, and birds are going to play a pretty big role in the story. So that's kind of a little foreshadowing that's going on there. So also what I wanted to have you tell everybody today was the reality of your experience in your granny's attic, some of the real things that transpired that became part of the story. So tell us about the attic at Granny's.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, everybody says, write what you know, and that's where the inspiration came from. And as a kid, my grandmother had an attic, and it wasn't as tricked out as Granny's in this book, but all of her old formals, she was an Eastern Star. I don't know if there's anybody out there that knows what Eastern Star is, but that was kind of a big deal back in the day. And she made her own formals. She was a seamstress, and she quilted and knitted and crocheted and all those things. And she would store her gowns up in the attic. And as a kid, I would go up there and do dress up and play in them and sing musicals for the family and do all kinds of plays and things like that. So Lizzy definitely is a branch of me, because that was a real part of my life. And the cedar chest that's up there, that actually exists as well.
Oh.
That was my granny's.
You still have the cedar chest.
I still have the cedar chest, and I wish I had a really good picture to pop up right now, but I don't. But yeah,
well,
that was a big deal.
Speaking of the attic, for the illustration that's in the book of the attic, I did the illustrations, and the mansion that's on the front cover. Let me go there first. The mansion that's on the front cover right here that window, this house really exists, and I used it as a model for my artwork.
Mhm.
This window, of course, has a very unique look to it with the panes and the fans on each side. And that is how I drew it for the illustration in the book, so that you can see that. But here's the funny thing, and I don't know if you can see it, but you probably have the book so you can look at it. And I thought I would tell you a little quirky thing.
Yeah, this is a good story.
When I designed this, I had the stuffed animals and the dolls and the rocking chair and the stacks of suitcases and all of those things that were up in the attic. I originally had the dog, the stuffed dog, who is now under the couch. I had him on the couch, and he sat there for quite some time. And then when I was working on the mirror, which is across the room, I knew I need to have that side of the room in the mirror. So I had to take all of those elements and I had to put them into a picture, and then I had to flip them and distort them so it would look like the angle and all of that kind of stuff in the mirror. But later, I wasn't quite done with it. And I thought, you know what? The dog looks a little stupid up on the couch. Let me put it under the couch. But I didn't remember to move the dog under the couch in the mirror. So there is my little tidbit to you for a little special hidden secret that's in this particular illustration. And I like mistakes like that, so that I hope you do too. So that was a fun little thing for me to talk about. Kat, let's get into some characters. You guys, if you've got questions, please, we want you to ask questions. I hope that you're reading and that you've got some curiosities about things. We love sharing the stories, but if there's anything that we can do to answer those questions, please let us know. So I would like to talk about some of the characters, in particular, Pearline. I mean, we all had a granny, and you have a very special granny, but Pearline's kind of an odd character. So let's talk about Pearline.
Yeah, so once again, Pearline was derived from some actual characters in my grandma's town. That she had an alleyway between the houses back then that went behind the houses, and that alleyway was used for the trash pickup and all of that kind of stuff. But oftentimes you made really good friends with the people across the alley. And one of them was Pearl, and she was one of my grandmother's friends. And then there was another woman named Laura that was a friend of my grandmother's. And so I kind of combined the two characters into Pearline Beasley that we have in the book, who Laura was the one with kind of a funny way of talking, and my brother used to imitate her. And then Pearl had this big head of hair, and, you know, and so again, I just kind of took from what I knew and my history and merged the two and made Pearline Beasley.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love the character of Pearline, quite honestly. And
Yeah.
Pearline actually does play a kind of a significant role in not the character development, but in the foreshadowing of things to come. And her last name in particular, Beasley, it's important. And this whole speech impediment that she has is a little bit important to the way we move the story forward. So that was kind of fun for me. And I really, really do like her character. Fluffs is another character that in the book, we just say, okay, he's a stuffed animal and all forth, but there's adventures that Lizzy takes with Fluffs, and he has an eye patch over his eye because one of his eyes been removed. And well, she sometimes puts an eye patch, and we can see Fluffs in that illustration in the attic. So you see the rabbit sitting on the couch with the eye patch. One of the things, Kat, that I added in the story was I think you had a big Christmas tree in their circular drive, and I wanted to expand on that from a childhood memory. In Wichita Falls, Texas, when I was growing up, from my earliest childhood, there was a wealthy oil family that had a corner mansion in the wealthy part of town. Wichita Falls used to be one of the richest towns per capita. They had more millionaires per capita than any town of its size because of all the oil in North Texas. And the Burns family were oil magnates, and they had a corner mansion with a huge lawn. And Mrs. Burns started putting up a Christmas display that included a real size Ferris wheel that was done up Disney style with the 7 dwarves and Snow White. and she had this robot that would blow bubbles, and she had a life-size nativity, and she had Santa in a workshop soaking his feet in a tub, and the reindeer were flying through the sky with Rudolph and the red light bulb nose. And every year she would always add to this display, and cars would just be circling this corner for hour after hour all through Christmas. And even when I was in junior high school, I was playing trumpet in a little Dixieland band, and they actually invited us to come play Christmas Dixieland music, and our little striped stuff with our little hats on, and we would stand out there and play on the corner for the people that were driving by. So it was a huge thing for me, and that was what became the inspiration. When Mrs. Burns died, that display went into storage for years. But Midwestern State University had started doing a thing called Fantasy of Lights, where they outlined all the beautiful buildings, and they ended up taking over Mrs. Burns' display, and they put it on the lawn of the university. So many of those very old displays are still there, but they continue to add to it. I mean, there was an old Mother Hubbard that lived in a shoe, and the shoe was the size of a house, and they had tracks for these kids to go, just mannequins of kids going in and through the shoe. It was amazing. So that was my contribution to Granny's Christmas display when the family drives up and sees all this commotion going on. And I thought that was kind of fun to put that memory in for me.
Yeah, for sure. Love that.
You guys, there's a lot of nostalgia in chapters 1 through 21. Can you list some of the nostalgic things that you particularly either remembered or connected with or had forgotten about? I think of the things of like the Beatles, of course, the Aquanet hairspray, the station wagon with the rear facing seat, Burl Ives singing Holly Jolly Christmas, and Brenda Lee singing, here you go, Kat, it's your cue.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly.
There we go. The aluminum Christmas trees. We had an aluminum Christmas tree for probably 4 or 5 years. And I loved it because I love the colors. So I can remember laying on my back on the floor with my head stuck under the tree, looking up through the branches just to watch the colors shift and change as they go through all of that. Let's see, I've written some of this down. Oh, the Brock's candies. Does anybody, I mean, my grandma had Brock's candies. We had Brock's candies. Always. And I remember going to the big vats of different things, and you would scoop them up and put them in a bag and take them to the checkout. I remember those very well. I don't know that would fly today in today's society, but that's exactly how it was back in the day. And then we deal with the Jell-O a little bit, but the bubble lights. I can remember loving the bubble lights when I was a little kid, and just all of that fantasy that really was fun for me. You, Kat, you said that there is a story with your brothers that became real in this story, and that has to do, oh yeah, the ribbon candy. Yes, that's great. Absolutely. I got 2 of you saying ribbon candy. and Lizzy was asking Granny, where is the ribbon candy? Yeah. And she's, I haven't pulled it out yet, but it's there. Absolutely. Hey, Rosie. They're playing, but I'm just kind of keep an eye on them here.
Yeah, so, for sure. Playtime can quickly turn.
Yeah, the ribbon candy. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Who had a beehive hairdo? I want you to raise your hand if you had a beehive hairdo back in the day. Kat, take over for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So Karen says that she had a metallic Christmas tree. Picture of my sister's in front of the one that we had. It was our first fake tree. Yeah, I can remember when we got our first flocked tree. That was a big deal. And then it was actually my grandmother, of all people, that ended up getting an aluminum tree. And she was the first one in the family to do that. We were all shocked because she had always had a real tree. But the story that Ricky was talking about earlier with my brothers that I incorporated into the book was real. I had and that's the one where the brothers try to play a prank on her while she's sleeping, and they tie a fishing line to the stuffed animal, and they're going to pull it across the room to scare her because this animal is going to start moving across her room and freak her out. My brothers actually did that. I actually had a tall giraffe, and I stumbled on the little line before going to bed and knew what they were going to do. And so I did it almost exactly how we played it out in the book. And they came into the room, and I scared them. And boy, did I feel like I finally got one over on my brothers. And I don't think they ever tried to trick me again after that. So it cured them of that for sure. Let's see, we have a couple more comments here. Beehive hairdos. Yeah.
Yes. And about the Christmas trees, it's so good that y'all have those memories, because they were certainly good for me. And Tammy, of course, you said your teacher did. Well, my mom did, and my the dogs are going crazy. I don't know if I need to split them up or something, but thank you. But also my sister did. So, and they had what they called wiglets.
Yes.
Because they would do their hair, and it would go even taller, right?
Yeah, and
I
fawns.
remember all of that.
I remember the fawns were a big thing that would clip back.
Oh,
here.
the fawns. Oh,
Yeah.
And then they had falls. Remember the
falls.
fall, which
falls.
long?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the falls.
Falls, that's what it was.
So,
yeah.
So one of the things about the aluminum Christmas tree, you guys hold on to that thought, because it is also a foreshadowing element in the story. A lot, like I said on Monday, a lot of these things are fun and nostalgic, but they do play, even if it's a small role, they come into play. So use your literary mind to, as you go forward, to be remembering things back here, because we really did try to do that. And some of the other things that I can think of besides fluff and purling in the aluminum tree, I describe a chair in the dining room with the leg that comes down to the claw, but we also have the claw or the cherub holding a globe on the banister right there at the bottom of the stairs that has gotten fixed, and they're excited that it's glowing again. And Pearline's excited, and she almost kissed Mr. Albright, and that was a fright. That was definitely a fright.
You don't want one of Miss Pearline.
I told Kat. Yeah, absolutely. I told Kat before this call, because Kat, of course, told the story of the giraffe. I'm rewinding for 2 seconds here. That I love how this unfolds whenever Lizzy has now gone to sleep under the quilt, and the tapping noise begins, and we start this very suspenseful journey back to the attic. And while the reader is excited about that, we interrupt that story with this, maybe it's my brothers playing
a prank.
Because once upon a time, they did this thing. And we go in and we have this entire story that interrupts the story to keep the suspense going a little bit longer. And of course, then it goes into the snow globe. Now, another thing, of course, one of the biggest foreshadowing elements in the story is the quilt. And the quilt that she finds, because that was the vision. We talked about that on Monday as well. That was the vision, to have a story inspired by the names of quilt blocks. And dating that quilt was part of why I did all the research to figure out, when was Lizzy born? If she's 10 and 64, she was born in 54. So then when would mom have been married, and when would grandma have, all of this? And so when would that quilt have gotten made if it was made by Granny? And it ended up being a Depression era quilt. I really worked hard to make sure there wasn't a block in the quilt that had never been known in the history of the world prior to that date, because I wanted it to be authentic as well. So there was a lot of research done into that respect. And just the fact that Lizzy is now going to use some of these blocks in her imagination as the story moves forward is really, it's very, very foreshadowing in that respect. So there's a lot of things that I said that go on in these chapters 1 through 7 that really make a difference. So I guess here's the thing, Kat, I'm going to see if there's any other questions. Does anybody have any questions about chapters 1 through 7 that you want to pick our brain? I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but I was hoping you guys would be curious And I want to see your curiosities. So we were looking for
We
something.
did
How
want
big
to
is the quilt?
also
It's 80 by
mention,
90. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead,
well,
Kat.
go ahead and answer Jan's question, and then we do want to bring up dire situation and interlude too, because
Oh yeah.
that,
Oh, thank you. Yes, that was on my other notes. You're right.
yeah,
So the quilt is, how big is the quilt? It's 80 by 90, give or
big.
take a quarter inch here and there, because there is some strange measurements. But essentially, it's a queen size quilt that would fit on a bed. And Jan, if you've not seen that quilt, I don't have a picture of it right. Well, it's in the front of the book. Yeah, it's in the front of the book in black and white, and you can see it there. And then there is the pattern book for that available as well. So, and we have the Lizzy Albright classes for that, and you can get the pattern book to actually make the Lizzy Albright quilt. And I designed the fabrics for Benartex that are actually described in the book. So if we see singing roosters or nesting circles or whatever you see red, I created fabrics for real that are described in the book. Oh, good. Toy says that she can post the quilt in the Lizzy Albright fan club today. So if you are on Facebook and you are not yet a fan of Lizzy Albright, please go in and become a fan in the fan club and follow Lizzy Albright as well. So, so yeah, let's talk about the dire situation, because those are two things in these first 7 chapters that are really very unique and interesting. Kat, do you want to chime in for those?
Yeah, so I really liked the idea of starting the book in one area and then flipping the brain, bringing it back to reality, and then switching back and forth. I think that really is a great way to introduce the fact that this book is going to take some twists and turns. The minute you turn the page, you're going to be in a completely different environment. So I don't know if that threw anybody off, or if it, if that makes people mad. I'm curious how people feel about reading in that, in that way, where you're going from fantasy world to real world like that. I love that though. But yeah, and I just like the very few characters that are introduced in those 2 chapters, or interlude and dire situation.
Well, right. We do introduce some very characters and some names, and those are briefly. One's 1 page and one's 1.5 pages. Those are very, very short.
Yes.
Those did not exist for the
Right.
longest time. We started the book with these chapters of Lizzy, and then you turn the page. When you guys start the next set of chapters, it's if you have already read it, you know what we're talking about. You're going to turn the page and go, "What?
Yeah.
What?" So we ended up putting the prelude and the interlude in to sort of let you know there is something really different coming, rather than just these situation with Lizzy and her family going to the mansion and experiencing Christmas and going up into the attic. So that is also something that if you want to do a quick reread on those 2 short pages, I would certainly do it, and then kind of keep some of that in the back of your mind as you move forward.
Yeah.
Kat, I want to go to my calendar, which says what chapters we're going to assign for today. We are going to assign chapters 8 through 12. So everybody, your next set of chapters before Monday's meeting will be to review, reread or read Lizzy Albright and the Attic Window, chapter 8 through 12. So 8 through 12 it's all self-contained. It's all one little story within itself. And then we'll be coming back to the real world at some
We need to do a drawing. Is that
we do need to do a drawing, and I need to get my list today, which I think has grown just a little bit, Miss Toy.
Also, Kathy Winks made the comment that the quilt is so much more beautiful in person. She finished the top on Tuesday. Yay, you, Kathy. Because that is a large quilt.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Kathy, did you end up using Ricky's design fabrics or your own fabrics from your stash? I would like to know that, because I think people get the impression that they have to use one thing or another, or but obviously you have choices here. So it would be fun to see what you chose to do.
Yes, and Kathy, if you want to send a picture of that, you can reach out to us through contact us on those pages. And if you can't attach your picture, once we reply via email, you could attach it. we could share that. We could share that on Facebook. We love doing that. So that'd be great.
Yeah.
So Miss Toy, we're going to do a drawing. So the random thing is today it's 263. So
Great.
we've grown a little bit since Monday. And
Great.
so if you would do the in the wheel, and we'll figure out who it is that's going to win a Lizzy Albright magic wand, hand created from the burn twigs here in the forest.
I have Calixta's wand. I love
Of course
these
you
wands.
do.
These are so, I know.
The evil sorcerer.
She's not evil.
Calixta is always in red.
But these are so amazing.
Oh.
These wands are from Ricky's property that were burned, as you know, may or may not know, a couple of years ago. Terrible fire tore through Colorado, and his entire property was burned. And so making something beautiful out of the ashes, Ricky is taking the branches, the burned branches, and making these beautiful wands. Every one is completely different. Mine has a little notch that I can put my thumb in for more power. So
I see it.
These are available for purchase. Oh, Kathy used your fabric, Ricky. Yes, it is authentic then. Totally. Okay. That's wonderful.
That's great.
Those fabrics are so much fun.
And Karen, I would encourage you to tell the kids to say, okay, just remember that story that we've read, keep it in the back of your brain. And we have a new story now. I did have some young people read the book whenever we first started, and that was a new device for them, but they did go through it and it all came together. So definitely remind them that there's stories within stories, and then how all those stories come together. I think that would be great. The number is 61. I need to go to my list and look and see who number 61 is. Come on, Ricky, you can find it. I know you can. Here we go. 261.
No, number 61, not 261. Oh, we have.
I meant number 260. I meant 61, and I'm trying to get to my document, and it suddenly just disappeared on me, and I had it right here.
Patty made the comment that she really enjoyed the switch up of characters and the storyline. That's awesome, Patty. Yeah. I was kind of afraid to do that. Ricky is the one that convinced me that it would be great and that people would follow, you know, and I thought it would make a big hiccup, but everybody's a lot smarter than I thought.
Well, I know that a lot of times in competitions and contests, they say families are exempt, but the truth of the matter is my aunt is number 61.
Oh.
My aunt is named Billy Timms. And I know that she's going to be delighted to get a Lizzy Albright wand. So I'll just stick with that because it's a random number generator. And I think that's pretty fun. So that's just great. Let's see. I answered that live. You guys, we're a little bit over right now. Working on the borders, Karen, that's great. I enjoyed the switch up of the characters in the storyline. That's wonderful too. And yes, Kathy, send the picture. And oh, Karen, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. So whenever they switch over, just know that we're going to come back to Lizzy at some point. And then also just the fact that we have a new story. So kind of treat this next section as a new story. Do not worry yet how it fits in, because that will all make sense soon enough. So any other comments before we say goodbye? Or forever hold your peace, as they say.
Yeah.
It's been fun seeing you guys. Thank you for joining us. It's just a nice little 30-minute chat. I thank you for being here, connecting with Kat and I today.
Yes.
With Lizzy Albright. Share the love with your friends. Encourage your friends and family to get a copy of the book and read it. That would mean a lot to us as well. So God bless all of you. Thank you for your time today. And it's nice to share these stories with you. Now, listen, you guys, you are the ones responsible for the questions on Monday. So read 8 through 12. Jot down some things that you want to know or comment on, and then we're going to talk about those on Monday. I'll send you a message. Sorry, I was a little late. I'm trying to send your invitation an hour ahead of time. I just got sidetracked this morning and didn't do that, but I'll try to keep you apprised. And as long as you know it's on your schedule, you're going to have the invitation and you can join us.
Bye,
Okay?
everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.